Hey Junior Devs, Dev Mentor Dave here, helping you bridge the gap from learning to code to launching a successful career. And part of launching that successful career is not making big mistakes in your interview process. In fact, there's one huge mistake that could not only keep you from being hired, but could really ruin your reputation long term. Unfortunately, many junior devs and senior devs make this mistake frequently without even realizing it. So what is this mistake? Telling a lie. Now you may be thinking, David, I would never lie in a job interview. I would never lie on my resume. Believe me, I know where you're coming from. But today I want to share with you 3 ways that junior developers and senior developers lie without even really realizing it or intending to, but how it can also hurt you long term. Okay, so the first lie is listing extra skills. Years ago, we were looking at Angular not long after it came out and wanting to maybe incorporate that into some of the things that we were doing. And so we found someone who had Angular on their resume and we brought them in for an interview. As we began to interview this person, we started asking questions about Angular. And what was interesting was she basically said, well, I have knowledge about that. And every question we would ask, it was, I have knowledge about that. And at the end of the day, what we realized is she'd never actually used Angular. She just did a little bit of study on the side. She never really built anything in it. She just had some knowledge about that. So let me give you some advice. Don't list a skill if you haven't used it in a project. Now, it doesn't have to be a professional project. It doesn't have to be something that you did for a previous company or for another employer or for an actual client. It just has to be used actually in something. And don't list it if all you've done are the tutorials, because doing the tutorials doesn't mean that you actually know how to implement it in a real world project. This is one of the reasons why we tell people, build projects, build lots of projects, because you need to grow the skill inside the real world application of projects. So as you're building your resume, as you're filling out applications, don't list skills unless you have actually used them. Just because you've read documentation or watched tutorials doesn't mean you really have that skill. And if somebody starts asking you questions about it, you won't have very good answers and you're going to hurt your reputation. Or they may not ask you enough questions and actually hire you, and you may not be able to do the job right out of the gate like they're expecting you to do, and you may end up losing that job. So if you want to share those things that you've learned or that you've started learning, put that information in a cover letter. Just share that information in the interview, but don't put it on your resume. Don't add it to your skill set when you're applying to a job if you haven't used it in a project. Okay, lie number 2 is leaving out experiences that you don't think are relevant. Always remember that everything that you have experienced made you who you are today. Everything you've experienced, even if it was a non-technical job, even if it has nothing to do with coding, it made you the type of developer that you are today. It gave you the insight that you have today. A lot of times people are taking their resumes and they're trying to take out things that don't look like it's part of the specific job that they're going for. And honestly, I know a lot of people tell you to tailor your resume just to that job, but why would you leave out potential experiences that could help somebody really understand where you've been, help somebody actually see the growth that you have made, moving from being a customer service representative like I was to being a full stack developer? Why would we leave out that information just because we don't think it's relevant? Somebody interviewing you may look at that resume and say, wow, they really have completely changed their whole direction in their life. They've really worked hard to get from this direction to this direction. And if we leave out our own experiences, if we leave out the things that we've learned outside of writing code, then we're not giving a complete understanding of who we are as a person. And besides, you never know what kind of experiences an employer is going to value. You never know what kind of needs they might have internally that are not specific to the dev role, but maybe they start seeing, wow, this person has experience in finance, or this person has experience in customer service, or this person has experience in quality assurance testing, or any other number of things, and they may value those experiences for a particular job that they have or for a particular client that they're dealing with. So you just never know how those experiences that you don't think are relevant might actually be relevant. Okay, so the third way developers lie during interviews, and honestly, this is a very common one, and in my opinion, a very big one, and that is claiming work that you haven't done. Now, again, you may be saying, I would never claim that I worked on a project that I didn't work on, or that I built something that I didn't build. Why are you saying that lots of people do this? Well, in my many years of interviewing developers, I've noticed that many of them tend to use the word we when it comes to projects and things that they've worked on in the past. Generally, when someone says, we worked on this or we did this project, that's like a little red flag in my mind that this person probably wasn't that involved, or maybe what they did didn't seem very significant, but it was a great project to promote as something that you were a part of. And I want to encourage you not to do that. It's fine to bring up projects that you worked on, but don't say we if you weren't doing the things that are really cool in that project. Now, you can bring that project up and say, hey, I worked on a team that was doing this, but be honest about what you actually did on the project. If all you did was build tables for data visualization, that's fine. Be honest about what you did. You never want to give the impression that you did something harder or more technical than you actually have the skill set to do. You need to be honest about what you have done so that that employer knows this is what they have done. This is where they might have some experience or some maybe industry knowledge from working on this project, but they didn't really necessarily do the technical parts of it. They did these parts of it. That still tells them what you have done. That still tells them the things that you have accomplished and the things that you can do. And they can still use that to decide if you're a good fit for the position that they need. You never know, the position that they need may not need all that special technical stuff that you're trying to hitch your wagon to. So don't oversell yourself on something that you haven't done and something that you maybe can't do. Now, what I'm not saying is look down on yourself and think of yourself as a worse dev than you actually are. That's not what I'm saying. I'll be the first person to say you should sell yourself. You should really put yourself out there and talk about the things that you want to learn and talk about the things that you have done and do that in a positive light. But don't lie and say that you worked on a project giving the impression that you did something that you didn't do. Because the reality is, if you get hired and they have those expectations and you don't meet them, it's not going to last very long. So as you're going through this interview process, as you're going through the process of learning and getting ready to go out there and look for jobs, I want to encourage you to really take a hard look at your resume. Make sure that you've got only the things that you've actually done, the skills that you've actually used on that resume. And don't leave out experiences that you have outside of writing code, because you never know what those experiences might translate to in that employer specific position. And then think about how you present and talk about the work that you have done, and make sure that you're doing it accurately. Do it positively, but do it accurately. Hey, I hope this has been a help to you on your development journey. And if it has, if you click the like button, I would really appreciate it. Just tells YouTube that people are interested in this type of content. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to be notified the next time I upload a video, or the next time we go live, which is every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central United States time. Thanks for spending time with me today, and I'll see you on the next one.